Well, everyone's buzzing because Rebecca Wrong Daly's been sacked. The fucking clue's in the name there. If your name's Wrong Daly, you should have been sacked in the first place. In fact, you should have never been hired. Rebecca Wrong Daly has got a fucking head full of cow shit and should have never got anywhere near the fucking leadership in the Labour Party. The problem I've got with this is it's just controlled opposition. Like, it's a stitch up from the middle, like it always has been. Boris isn't a real Conservative, and Keir Starmer isn't a real fucking socialist. They're basically identical. Almost identical. A stitch up from the middle, like it is in nearly every country now. It's what the rhinos are doing in America. You've got people who are basically more or less exactly the same, and they're all got the noses in the trough together, and it's controlled opposition. A total stitch up. Boris Johnson and fucking Keir Starmer are two peas in a pod. He's not a real Conservative, and Sir Keir is definitely not a fucking socialist, is he? Sir Keir? Of course he's not a fucking socialist. He's got a knighthood, and he's worth more money than fucking McDuck. Like, it's so obvious to anyone who's not a maniac. So yeah, bollocks. Stitch up from the middle. At least when it was proper Conservative like Thatcher and a proper socialist like fucking Jezza, at least they had the argument. Now it's just going to be the more same old dull, wishy-washy, middle of the road, entitled, boring fucking posh white blokes. That's all you get. And they won't stand up to Marxists. And they'll basically have that soft fucking wishy-washy, hand-wringing lefty fucking style of neoliberal bollocks that we've had running the fucking world for the last 30 years. The shit and nobody likes. Seriously, at least fucking old school Tories and socialists had a proper argument. It's better than this shit. Just slow, dull decline and no one's fucking happy with it. But that's me. I've always been against fence sitting. The other big story was, it's fucking massively kicking off in Brixton. And obviously the only blokes who can really call it out is the black dudes, isn't it? Sean Bailey is, Conservative candidate for mayor. I mean, it's unbelievable. Well, no, I keep saying that. Not unbelievable. If you listen to me, predictable. I've been talking about it for fucking months, and it's been blatantly obvious to anyone who's not an imbecile. But let's just have a look, shall we? Brixton Street Party descends into violence and chaos, with police cars smashed and 22 officers injured. Fuck me. There's 2 needed hospital treatment. So that's worse than we got when the apparently violent racist far right went to town, isn't it? Where we had some paltry, 4 policemen got injured, but they still arrested 100 blokes. It says 22 were left injured, 2 needed to go to hospital. They were confronted by a hostile crowd at a block party. A man chasing the police away, shouting, "Don't come round here, bro. This is what we do." Yeah, it's what we do. Bit racist, isn't it? That's what we do. I don't think that's what you do, but apparently he does. What the fuck is he hitting the police car with there, by the way? It looks like Captain Caveman. You know that fucking club thing he uses? Like a gnarled tree branch. Quality that, wasn't it? Quality. I love it. My missus always says this to me, why do you love being right? I don't know why. It's a failing of my character. But I fucking love it. I love it. I love getting proved right. What do you fucking think's going to happen when the police don't enforce the law? What do you think's going to happen? He knows the crack. This daft lefty twat with a fucking ridiculous cowboy hat on. Lord Bradley Green. The scenes are disgusting. What these wankers fail to realise when they're acting like clowns is that they're representing an entire culture and they're doing nothing but painting a picture the narrow-minded racist wants to see. Of course they fucking are. Think about it. If you're the type of person, a dull, middle-of-the-road centrist, a plumber who doesn't really care much about politics and just gets on with your life and raises your kids and goes to fucking work, and you see this... Are you going to think, I'll tell you what, diversity's been a fucking working a treat? It's worked a fucking treat. Everything's going grand. Is that what you're going to think? Is the average man on the street going to be more or less prejudiced when he wakes up to that? Answers on a fucking postcard. I can't help but thinking if senior officers get down on their knees, it makes us look weak and emboldens the mob. No fucking shit. Again, why is it left to normal, silly cunts like me or this guy to say these things when they're painfully obvious? When a 10-year-old learns this stuff when they're a kid, if you don't stand up to a bully, they will take the piss out of you for your entire life. Neville Chamberlain taught us this. The coward in the face of them, they run away from them. We have a 2-tier legal system where the Football Lads Alliance and all the white working class chavs hardly assaulted any police officers, didn't put any in hospital, and got rounded up and had the shit beaten out of them in droves. And 100 of them arrested for basically a more or less peaceful protest. And then you got thousands of fucking Black Lives Matter activists, communists and fucking maniacs, Marxists, nutters, putting policewomen in hospitals, throwing bricks at their horses, setting cars on fire, and hardly anyone gets arrested, and the police run away from them like cowards. Because we've got a 2-tier legal system. Of course, it both emboldens the Black Lives Matter activists, and worst of all, it builds on the resentment that is central to the Marxist cause. It's all about building up resentment, so you have your glorious revolution. Of course you're going to be resentful if you know for a fact that you get treated worse and more likely to be beaten up by a copper and more likely to be arrested by a copper if you happen to be a white guy. Are you going to be more or less resentful? This is trivially easy to see for anyone that's ever read a history book. But we refuse to learn the lessons of history, so they repeat themselves again and again and again. There's a good one. Sarge, this largely peaceful protest is getting a bit heated. Should we take a knee or run away? Exactly.
People are throwing bottles in the fucking sky. People are throwing bottles in the fucking sky.
What a bunch of fucking pansies. Apparently it was a Black Lives Matter event. Of course it was. The BBC won't tell you that though. Yeah, kicking fuck out of each other. It's just a shit show. You don't need me to sit and go through it all. You know what went on. It was fucking chaos. Look, even my nemesis Femi's had a word. I'm struggling to imagine the level of immaturity and lack of moral self-awareness it takes to have an illegal street rave during a viral pandemic lockdown and then attack the police who try to stop you endangering your own life. That makes 2 of us, Femi. But you've been emboldening the daft cunts for the last 5 years, so you need to sit down and shut the fuck up, son. Own it. It's your mistake. You helped create this brave new world. Fucking suck it up. Honestly, what a fucking dickhead. And immaturity, well, isn't that the word most people talk about when the kids are waving hammer and sickle flags and wearing fucking Che Guevara t-shirts? Of course they're immature, you silly cunt. Because no one over the age of 35 who isn't as light as a fucking kite is well aware that it's immature, because it's a stupid, infantile, fucking ridiculous ideology that drives resentment and hatred until you get a glorious revolution. But when there's a revolution, it's not glorious, and lots of people starve to death, and lots of people get killed, and that's why you're only supposed to have one if you're at the absolute end of your tether and you're living in the worst conditions imaginable. Like this infantile thing, let's have a revolution, like they just go off easily. Like you don't get massive, large-scale public disorder and deaths in the hundreds of thousands whenever you have a fucking revolution. What's glorious about them, Femi? Nothing. And it's time you learnt the lesson, you silly cunt. Which does remind me, I did want to make a response to Fancy here who said to me, like, what if we want World War III? Get rid of them. And I tried to make the point, but I'm going to elucidate on it now. Basically talking about what I was saying there. People overuse the word revolution. AOC, fucking chomper. She loves to talk about a revolution. Let's have a revolution. It's like, these people have never been to a war zone. They've never seen how people live. Well, I've been to plenty. More than fucking most, I think. 4, right? Maybe you wouldn't class Northern Ireland in 2000 as a war zone. But I've been to Sierra Leone. I've been to Afghanistan. I've been to Iraq. I've been to Northern Ireland. Large-scale public disorder is always bad. Not just because of the actual fighting in the streets that always goes off between whichever groups are going at it. Sunni and Shia in Iraq, or the Taliban and everybody else in Afghanistan, or Protestants and Catholics in Northern Ireland, or the fucking West Side boys and the government in Sierra Leone. It's always fucking awful. The looting and raping and murdering that both sides sometimes, but always at least one side in the quest to get what they want. That type of stuff happens, it's commonplace. And alongside the looting and the murdering and the raping and the pillaging, the entire economy is decimated because no one can do any business. And then everyone starves. And then you get Venezuela where you have to go to the fucking local zoo and eat the giraffes for your fucking tea because there's nothing. There is nothing. So you need to be living in a full-blown authoritarian dictatorship. You basically need to be living in hell to sign off on a revolution. And that's why it has to get really, really bad before it kicks off. And I'm sorry, but nothing in the Western world in the last 40 years has been anywhere near bad enough where anyone should ever use the term, let's have a revolution. On the right or the left, what need is there for a revolution in somewhere like America or Great Britain? Just enforce the existing laws, get rid of all the criminal aliens, get a grip of law and order, and things will get back to normal quickly. It's acceptable. People will still be able to feed the kids, get medical treatment when they need it, have their family get an education. I mean, there's the only thing you need, right? Really. You need food, shelter, healthcare, a job, an education system, and a bit of time off to partake in your hobbies. Done. Well, you've got all that now. So we don't need a revolution. We need the fucking law enforced equally for everyone. I mean, to get a grip of the streets, both in the United States and in the UK. And when you see daft cunts doing shit like this, you lock them up. And you unequivocally make the case. The Boris Johnson, pussy, boring, wishy-washy, middle-of-the-road shithouse that he is, goes on television and makes it plain as fucking day that if you break the law, you'll be prosecuted and you'll go to jail and it will ruin your life. And then you say to these 19-year-old fucking rabble-rousers and commies, listen, do you really want to fuck your entire life up? I will put you in prison for 2 years if you try and pull a statue down, and you will never get employed ever again. And at best, you'll be living in a council house in a sink estate for the rest of your life, feasting off fucking noodle doodles and microchips for the rest of your fucking days. Make the case. It's not difficult. Restore law and order. That needs to happen. The police need to regain the whip hand and fucking enforce the law aggressively, equally, for everyone. Not just on fucking poor working class white people, because all that does is drive resentment and push people into the arms of the far right. And nobody wants to see that happen. And they don't, because normal people like me go to school with fucking black and Indian kids, and you grow up with them and you go, oh, these guys are alright. But if it gets worse, people are going to go, you know what, it's a shame, because I do like fucking Nung Wangbo, the Nigerian guy who drives the bin wagon. He's alright, he's a nice fella. But you know what, the wife and kids are more important. So if some proper far-right nationalist guy says, right, I'm going to deport everyone who does anything wrong, I'm going to strip people of citizenship if they weren't born in the UK, even if they've been paying the taxes and they've been good citizens, I'm going to enforce the law aggressively, people will go, well, you know what, it's got so fucking chaotic the last 4 or 5 years, I suppose I'll regretfully vote for the guy. That's what happens. So silly cunts like Boris and Sean Bailey and anybody else who has even an inkling of getting any power needs to make the case for strong, old school, centrist, conservative values, law and order, education, free markets, liberalism. Sort it out, or it's just going to descend into this shit that's going to be on the news every day, and then you're going to have, just like it always happens, warring fucking gangs in the streets. Marxists versus fucking fascists. The electric boogaloo. Let's just do it all again and again and again and again because nobody wants to read a fucking history book. Get a fucking grip, lads. Seriously. You do it, Sean. You're the right colour. Boots had Eat Khan out, the communist cunt, and impose a proper centre-right, old-school conservative government on the capital. Lock up, put the fear of God into the fucking rabble, free everybody else up to go to school and go to work, and get a fucking grip before things go massively tits up, because it's coming. And a fucking 15-year-old that's even read a couple of history books knows this. The fact that our mainstream media and all the elites, well, how can we call them elite when they're so fucking useless? But the fact that those people can't see this coming and don't know what's going to happen is embarrassing. Elite. They're not elite. They are thick as fuck. It's like morbidly obese National Guardsman calling himself the elite of the military. That's our elite. Clueless and fucking incompetent. Anyway, that turned into a bit of a rant, but seriously, they need to get a grip. Because if this shit's in the news every fucking week for the next 5 years, and then you get some hardcore authoritarian strongman comes up, who do you think people are going to vote for? Cressida Dick. She's as much use as fucking tits on a nun, that cunt. Fuck me. Cressida, you need to fuck off as well. That's what identity politics does. I told you my mate, my unnamed source, he's a detective in the Met. And he said she wasn't meant to get the job. It was like this Scottish copper with 30 years experience who everyone respected, and he was a bit of an hard bastard. She got the job because she's a fucking leser and she's a woman. She's grossly incompetent, but she fails upwards because she's got the right fucking identity politics boxes ticked. It's why it's so toxic to having a well fucking ran, properly functioning economy and country when you let people fail upwards, even when they're shit at everything, because they happen to tick the right diversity boxes. I think we all know she got the fucking job because she's been scissoring. Fucking ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, that's all I've got to say on Brixton. What a fucking piss take. Get a grip, boys and girls, or you're not going to like where this ends up. Cheers.